Hello? All right, good evening, everyone. The time is 6:01 p.m., and I hereby call this meeting to order. And so we'll begin with a roll call. So when I read your name, please say here or present. Gopa. Rolls. Chenoweth. Campstra. Kloppenstein. Hackbarth. Kuehler. Swank. Reichert. Mahoney. Trotter. Jones. Cecil. Eisma. Wellman. Momini. Larson. Pursley. Schneider. And with that, we do have quorum for the evening. And so with that, we'll move into the Pledge of Allegiance led by Speaker Hackbarth. And so with that, we move into, not open forum, we move into tonight's second program of the evening, Role of a Supreme Court Justice with Senator Cecil. And so while we're getting that slideshow pulled up, I do often forget to note this, but it would be great if senators, as a sign of respect, would close or mostly close your laptops as we're listening to tonight's program.
All right, so good evening, everyone. I'm Senator Cecil. I wasn't at the networking event earlier. I had another networking event to go to. But the last time we had some Supreme Court justices nominated, we had some contradictory opinions on what they actually do. And since I started in Supreme Court and am the longest person here to serve on the court and have heard a case, I figured I would let you all know actually what their responsibilities are. And yeah, so first of all, student government has structure. I have a flow chart that I intend to share, but it's really hard to see in a PowerPoint. So that plan didn't really work out. But the executive branch has a bunch of responsibilities that a lot of you are familiar with. And I kind of just threw that in there as well, along with legislative, which if you are not familiar, get with someone if you are sitting at Senate right now, please, because that's your job. But finally, we have the judicial branch, which is the smallest branch and probably the least used, mostly because they're primarily reactionary. So they have a semi-separate advisor because we also use Sophie, but the court's official advisor is University Counsel, and a successful court case does not hear from their advisor because that's when things are a lot bigger than the court and require actual lawyers. So that's not our responsibilities. But the biggest responsibilities of the court are to interpret documents when asked, and that takes two senators asking the court to interpret certain bylaws or constitutional pieces or even Senate Rules of Order, although that one is less common. The reason that was created was to try to not have the court interpret those a little bit. That's not the only reason. There are lots of reasons, but that's part of it. And then they also hear cases which are mostly on like bill disputes, like whether or not it should have been passed, financial things, which also are bills, but also election commission finances and whether or not that should happen. Most recently, the court heard a case on whether or not someone should be allowed to run on the ballot because of some of the ways that information was passed through the election commission. And then also election commission appeals. So if you have an election violation and they find that you are at fault and should pay, you can go to the Supreme Court and you can appeal your case there. And then another power that is listed in our governing documents but not really used as much is election commission oversight, because the actual structure is that election commission is part of our judicial branch and looked at from our non-biased group, which is the Supreme Court, and there should be a lot more communication there. And I believe there's a lot of work to try to do that. I know there was when I was Chief Justice and immediately following that, just because once we lost some very passionate people from Election Commission, there's less of a direction. So having some more people try to understand where we should go is very beneficial. But the things that are not the responsibility of the Supreme Court are anything that is non-student government, really. And that can be any state case, legal or civil, federal legal or civil. Immigration cases are definitely not. There was someone in the 70s that really wanted us to help him with immigration stuff because he couldn't get his passport back from the university. If you are someone that is looking for that, please don't come to the Supreme Court. They are not qualified, and they should not be hearing that case. And in that instance, they never did, but he submitted 30 appeals to be heard because no one really communicated that that was not the thing. So if you are on the court, please communicate things like that so you don't end up with someone having some pretty serious issues not taken care of. And finally, civil action against any former or current governmental officials, that's a big one that we can't do. Someone once tried to sue Ronald Reagan. So yeah, we don't do that. But people that do that are any of these. If it's something that you need representation, that's student legal services. And then all the way down to, if there's immigration, talk to someone else. But yeah, the court has a very low priority caseload. In the time that I've been here, which this is my 5th year, there have been 3 cases heard, maybe 4. I know at least one of those went to arbitration, so it wasn't even heard by the whole court. And there have been like a total of 6 requests of hearing, and 2 of those were something that we couldn't help with. So it's not used a lot, but when it is used, it's kind of important, but not so important that it's equal to federal laws. So as long as someone is good with reading comprehension and willing to put in the work to understand what we do and why we're here and advocating for students, they are more than qualified to be on there regardless of their understanding of the legal system or legal documents, because this structure was built by students, it's run by students, and it's here to help students. So bottom line, it's not as serious as it can be, but it is very useful, and we should discuss with candidates if they're willing to look out for students more so than anything else, because at the end of the day, this is one of the methods that we make sure that we're here helping students and not just helping ourselves. So with that, that's all I got for you, but thank you.
So
Yeah.
can you explain what arbitration is?
Yes. So if you have a case and it is worth hearing, but it might not be a full case where you need everyone on the Supreme Court to look at it and vote on it and debate about it, you can sit down with the justice and have a less formal talk about your case and work it out a little bit that way. And Charles has things he would like to say. Maybe? No? Okay. But it's not a full-blown case. It's more so the, I did that. That was me. I'm proud of it. Anyways, it's more so just like, we can talk this out. You generally get both sides in there, and it's more of a discussion that is structured with a non-biased individual in the room to help them work through some issues. So.
Thank you, Vice Speaker Kamstra. All right, and so seeing no further questions, thank you. We will move into tonight's open forum. Open forum shall serve as an opportunity for students to speak about issues relevant to the student body. So with that, I would ask that anyone here for open forum approach the podium at this time. Wasn't sure if Eddie was going for the podium or not, and it looks like no. And so seeing no one here for open forum this evening, we'll move into adopting tonight's agenda. Are there any amendments before we do so? Yes, Vice Speaker Kamstra.
Steal Hunters. I motion to move 2023-2-31 SD, the seating of, I just want to get the title right, I apologize. Confirming a nominee for IRHA Senator to the beginning of internal matters. I also motion to add 2023-2-035 SG, seating an at-large to Finance Committee, 2023-2-036 SG, seating a senator to Cyride, and 2023-2-037 SC, seating graduate students nominees to Special Fee Committee.
All right, and so just to make sure I have that right, it's been moved to lower item 2023-2-031 SD, confirmation of an residence hall senator, as well as to add items 2023-2-035 through 037. Is that right? Yes. So, lower or raise item 31. And then the rest of those matters would go to the end of external matters. Okay, and so is there a second on that motion? Internal, my bad. Second. Has been moved and seconded. Is there any objection to making those amendments at this time? Seeing none, they shall be made.
We will get those added to the agenda so you all can read them before we see them.
And so while those are being added to the agenda, are there any further motions before we approve the agenda for this evening?
Motion to approve.
It's been moved and seconded to adopt tonight's agenda. Is there any objection to doing so? Seeing none, it shall be adopted. So moving on to the approval of our previous meeting minutes. Is there a motion to adopt those?
So moved.
It's been moved and seconded. Is there an objection to approving the minutes from last week? Seeing none, they shall be approved. And so with that, we'll move into committee reports, starting with the Rules Committee with Speaker Hackbarth.
Sorry, y'all, I was making amendments. So Rules met Monday night, as per the usual. We've had 2 senators express interest in our final seat on Rules. We are hoping to arrange interviews with them soon. You know who you are. Please respond to my email. We saw a bylaw change bill for one of our director positions. Doesn't change anything about the position itself, just a update of our verbiage, but we'll talking more about that when we get to it in first read. And we had a lovely chat with not 3, but 4 Supreme Court Justice nominees, and I'm really excited for you all to see them tonight. And that's it.
And so are there any questions for Speaker Hackbarth or the Rules Committee? Seeing no questions, we'll move on to updates from the Finance Committee with Finance Director Hirsch, who is not here.
I'm
Oh,
here.
you
Switch
moved
sides
on me.
over here, yeah.
Finance Director Hirsch.
I was worried Charles getting lonely. No, we met yesterday, had a very productive Finance Committee meeting. We went over P&C edits, and then we also had a line item transfer, which we approved. Very straightforward. And then also name tags have been submitted for, I've submitted the request to trademark, so waiting to hear back on that. And then we'll be able to get them ordered. So, and then we're also going to have a at-large nominated tonight for Finance Committee, and I'm excited to talk more about it when he comes up.
All right, with that question, starting with Senator Trotter. There's been a motion to add Senator Larson. Do you also wish to add Senator Everhart to that motion? All right, it's been moved to add Everhart and Larson to the roll. Is there any objection to doing so? Seeing none, they shall be added. And so are there any further questions for the Finance Committee? Seeing no questions, we'll move on to the PR Committee if we have any respective directors here tonight.
Hello, everyone. For those who don't know me, I'm Eric. I'm the Director of Outreach. Maddie does not really have too much. She's interviewing a couple individuals for an at-large position for the PR Committee, and she will also be needing a couple more senators to run for the PR Committee. Currently, we had about 2 at-larges come to our PR meeting last week, and hopefully they will be returning next week. This week we didn't really meet, so we don't really have too much to talk about, except that the mass email is hopefully going to be coming out soon. It has now been passed through the president and the treasurer, and I believe it's now at Sophie's hands, so it's going to be getting submitted very soon.
And so with that, are there any questions for the PR Committee? Seeing no questions, we'll move on to DEI. We'll see a nomination for that director tonight, but in the meantime, is there anyone who would like to give any DEI-related updates to the group? Seeing no updates, we'll move on to student initiatives if our Director of Student Services is here tonight. And
She is not here tonight.
if anyone else would like to give any SI-related updates. So seeing no updates on that, we'll move on to local affairs with President Holliday.
Hey y'all, so I'm giving Jeff's update tonight as he is in an exam. So best of luck to Jeff right now. He doesn't have a whole lot for updates. It looks like he's still looking for people to join the local affairs committee. So if anyone is interested, hit Jeff up. He also has an Ames City Council meeting this upcoming week, so be sure to let him know if there is anything that you would like to be addressed at that meeting, because he is our voice in those meetings, so be sure to utilize that. He can be reached at his email, which is jeffreyc@iastate.edu. So please don't ask me questions, because I don't know anything else.
But I have to say it anyways. Are there any questions? Thankfully, seeing no questions, we'll move on to sustainability with our Director of Sustainability.
Hi, everyone. I'm not going to be standing right now because my foot kind of hurts a little bit. But updates for Sustainability Committee, we still haven't met yet. Our tentative first meeting date will be October 4th. And then also other updates, I've been interviewing at-larges applications this week, and the beginning of next week, so hopefully we can get some seated next week at Senate. And also tonight, we will hopefully be seating 3 senators to the committee, which was very exciting. And we still have room for 3 more senators, so if anyone's interested in that, they can contact me. That is it.
And so with that, are there any questions? Seeing no questions, we'll move on to health and wellness. If our Director of Health and Wellness is not here, would anyone like to give any health and wellness related updates? Oh, I'm sorry, Senator Keeler, excuse me.
Okay, because Director Spahn cannot make it tonight, I'll give a few updates. So first, we're still in the process of filling Senate seats. We have 2 more available, so if you're interested, the document or the application is in Speaker Hackbarth's document on the Teams. Next, we're working on Party Smart. That's going to be October 4th, and it will also be an outreach credit. So if you need to do one of your outreach credits, that would be a great place to do it. It's from 11 to 2 on Wednesday, I believe. And then next, so there was a health and wellness related survey that was sent out to, I believe, 10,000 people, if I have the number correct. Basically, Director Spahn wants to say that if you got that survey, please fill it out. That is important. And then we're also in the process of looking for at-larges. And then we haven't met yet, but it looks like our meeting times are going to be like Wednesdays, like 2:30, 3-ish. So yeah, that's about it. I yield.
Are there any questions for either Senator Keeler or the Health and Wellness Committee? Seeing no questions, in the absence of our Director of Governmental Relations, is there anyone who would like to give any legislative ambassador-related updates tonight? So seeing no updates, we'll move on to comments from the judicial branch.
Hello, everyone. You are going to be hearing from our nominations tonight, and hopefully you enjoy them and get them along to help out. We haven't met yet, but once we get the people in, we will try to meet. And we also are trying to make mock trials, so if you want to be a part of that anytime soon, reach out to me, C.A. Taylor at Iowa State. Thank you.
With that, are there any questions for the court? Seeing no questions, we'll move on to comments from our advisor.
Hello, everyone. If you have set up a meeting with me and we've met, I hope it was good for all of you. I enjoyed talking to everybody, so I appreciate you scheduling that with me. If you have one coming up, it is in my calendar, and I look forward to speaking with you. If you would like to work on anything or have any projects you have any ideas for, please let me know. Have a good meeting.
Are there any questions? Seeing none, we will end with comments from the executive branch with President Holliday.
Hey y'all, me again. So I don't have a whole lot to share this week. I'll just give you a rundown of some meetings that I've been up to because, you know, busy gal, so might as well share everything. We had Athletics Council last week, lots of good things happening there. In that meeting, I discovered that the student fee that goes towards athletics hasn't been raised since 2005. That's pretty incredible, isn't it? That was a fun fact I wanted to share with y'all. Some other things that I have been up to is Quinn and myself have had a couple meetings with the Senior Vice President of Student Affairs, Dr. Toya Younger. So those have been very productive, and we're looking forward to seeing some good things in the works here soon. I also recently had the opportunity to meet the president of the Faculty Senate, and she brought to my attention a few positions that are on committees that we should start filling because it will allow us to start to get a lot of really great work done in relation to the Faculty Senate. Yeah, lots of good things there. Be expecting a program from the president actually here in the next couple of weeks because she would love to come and share some things that the Faculty Senate has been up to and educate you all more on what the Faculty Senate is because it's kind of a unique Senate to work with, but we should have a great relationship because we could accomplish a lot together. As for that, we had chief officers today. I hope that you all had a successful meeting ahead of this current Senate meeting. But to wrap things up, I just want to note that I will be speaking on a couple of bills that are on the floor tonight since some representatives were not able to be here. So just be expecting that when the meeting gets started as well. Are there any questions?
So seeing no questions, thank you to President Holliday, and we'll begin the business of this evening. Seeing no special matters, we'll move into external matters, starting with item 2023-2-002F, funding a printer for student government with Vice Speaker Kamstra.
All right, yeah, so this is the printer that I showed you guys all last week, the Epson ET3850. Again, we would be getting a 4-year warranty plan through Best Buy. Senator Klopfenstein, I got it, let's go. He mentioned to me that he had worked at Best Buy, so he can help us out with any questions regarding that warranty. The printer would be in the student government office. Obviously, it wouldn't be for personal use, it would be mostly for student government use. That's why we also opted to go with a smaller one that doesn't cost thousands of dollars. So, and it's extremely sustainable to run and extremely cheap to run. So I encourage you guys to have a lot of debate about this, determine if this is the one we want to go with, and yeah. So yeah, that's all I got for opening announcements.
And so with that, the floor is open for debate, starting with Senator Mahoney.
So I think this printer's fine. I haven't looked too much at it beyond just like a few reviews, so I think it's fine. Either way, though, we desperately need a new printer. I'm pretty sure I'm the only person in the organization that actually has access to it right now, or at least has figured out how to get access to it. It's broken. It desperately needs to be replaced. And something like printing services doesn't really work for us because a lot of times we're printing agendas like right before a Senate meeting or a Rules Committee meeting, and we sort of need to have our own printer so that we can be printing things off as frequently as we do. And printing services usually has a couple-day wait and is pretty expensive. So I say we just get a printer like this that's not on a contract. We can just support it ourselves. It's pretty low maintenance. We don't have to worry about messing with it too much. As long as somebody in the organization is reasonably technical, it'll be fine. So I'm definitely going to be voting yes.
All right, and so moving to my left with Speaker Hackbarth.
Have we spoken with like MUIT and all of the necessary checks that we need to make sure that we can get said printer?
Can I speak? Okay. Yes. So I spoke with the individual whom I was directed to. His name is Casey. Actually, like at 6 o'clock tonight. He looked it over. He checked it and says that it is going to work perfect with the MU. And when we have it available, he's going to help us get it set up.
Perfect. I have one additional question. What does the time frame look like for us to get this? Like, do we have like, this is going to take a month to get here, this is going to take a week to get here? Do we have anything like that?
They have 3 in stock at Best Buy right now.
Love. I yield.
And with that, Senator Trotter.
Senator Mahoney raises a good point of we need someone fairly technical to take care of the thing. Do we have a pre-decided person who's going to take care of that? Would that be Senator Kamstra? Will someone else need to step up for the role? It's a minor thing, but something that needs to be brought up nonetheless. I yield.
That'll probably be up for debate. I don't think that's necessarily something we need to determine to pass the bill, but I myself have set up one of these before, so I'd be willing to take that on while I'm in vice speaker role. But yeah, we also, did we get rid of director of IT? Yeah, we have a director of IT that could also take that on, so.
All right, and so moving to Senator Cecil.
Kind of going off of that, this is also a printer. Most of the time, they don't require high skills to maintain. And if we have a warranty, we have someone to call or take it to. So, not a huge concern, in my opinion.
All right, and so moving to Senator, I'm sorry, is it Klappenstein or Stein? You're going to have to remind me. Stein? What? Did I say it right? Klappenstein. Okay, I'm just making sure.
I just want to further add that I used to sell printers, and I sold a lot of this model, and it's like really easy. I know everyone said that, but I really want to emphasize it doesn't use cartridge-based stuff, so that's where the sustainable comes from, and you can just buy the bottles aftermarket cheaper as well. It's like really easy. It's not going to be hard, and the maintaining process is like cleaning it like once a week is recommended. You can realistically do it like once a month, so it's easy, I promise.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded to end debate at this time. Is there any objection to doing so? Seeing none, closing comments, Vice Speaker Kamstra? Seeing no closing comments, we'll move into a vote at this time. Seeing as this is a finance bill, we will be doing this via a roll call vote. And so when I read your name, please say yes, no, or abstain. Rolls. Chenoweth. Everhart. Kamstra. Klappenstein. Hackbarth.
Yes.
Kuehler. Swank. Reichert. Mahoney.
Yes.
Trotter. Jones. Cecil. Eisma. Wellman. Momini. Larson. Pursley. And Schneider. And so with a vote of, you can check me this, but 19 to 0 to 0, the motion carries. It's been a long time coming. And so with that monumental achievement, we'll move into internal matters, starting with item 2023-2-031 SC, confirming a nominee for IRHA Senator with Speaker Hackbarth.
Okay, if our nominee would like to approach the podium. So we had a very lovely chat in rules, kind of about what their goals are as a part of the organization and how they plan to represent their students. And so without further ado, I would love for you to take the stage and introduce yourself.
I am Tadiwa Mbowe Sango. I was born and raised in Zimbabwe. The fact that being born and raised in Zimbabwe, we have everything in Zimbabwe. We have corruption, we have bad leaders and things like that. So, majorly from that, I've noticed the tendency of people not being well represented, and I've always wanted to take a chance or take a stand to represent those that cannot represent themselves. I am taking a double degree in actuarial science and economics.
All right, and so with that, the floor is open for any questions for our nominee. Speaker Heckbarth.
So I know when we originally chatted in rules, you weren't sure of what committee you were interested in joining, and seeing as every senator needs to serve on at least one committee, did you have a chance to look over the document we sent you with committee openings, and have you kind of figured out where your interests lie?
Yes, legislative ambassador.
All right, and so if not, the floor is open for any further debate. It's been called for in second. Is there any objection to ending debate at this time? Seeing no objection, closing comments, Speaker Heckbarth? Seeing no closing comments, UC has been called for. Is there any objection to passing this nominee by way of unanimous consent? Seeing none, the motion carries. And if you could just stay up there for one moment. We'll just get you sworn in as a senator real quick.
I solemnly swear or affirm. I solemnly swear or affirm. To execute the duties of my position. To execute the duties of my position.
And so with that, before we move on to our next item, is there a motion to add our new senator to the roll?
So moved.
It's been moved at least a couple times. Is there any? Yeah, have a seat. Is there any objection to doing so? Seeing none, they shall be added. And so with that, we'll move into item 2023-2-024SC, confirming nominees to the Supreme Court with Speaker Heckbarth.
Okay, may our four nominees approach the podium. All four of you, get on up there. So we had another very long discussion with these four nominees. Three of them were going to go up last week, but after reviewing the bylaws, rules needed to review them. So we pushed them all to this week so that we could interview them kind of as a brick or a block of folk. And they all had fantastic answers, and they all, I think, are really good fits for this. So we are going to go in the order that you are listed on the bill. So the first up to introduce themselves is going to be Josh, then Michael Murphy, Antonio Chavez, and then Michael Breismeister. Is that close? Breesmeister. Okay, forgive my German. So, Josh, why don't you take it away? Go ahead, give us an introduction of yourself. We'll go through all four of you with your introductions, and then we'll open the floor to questions, okay?
Good evening, everyone. I'm Josh. I'm a senior in political science, and I'm minoring in philosophy. And I just wanted to open up with a quick little quote from Chief Justice John Marshall, the fourth Chief Justice of the United States. To listen well is as powerful as a means of communication and influence as to talk well. And I think this is relevant and important today, not only as everyone here, a senator or the executive, but also as a Chief Justice or a Supreme Court Justice, especially since they have such a limited role and such specific powers. I believe that since I don't have the power to create laws or necessarily to speak with everyone else here at the university, I think that being able to hear the students, hear faculty, hear staff, and address any of those issues is especially important. And being able to interpret what the Constitution says, what the acts say that the senators bring forth, is the way of how I can efficiently and effectively adjudicate as a Supreme Court justice. And something that has really has me motivated to become a Supreme Court justice is the fact that seeing how our federal Supreme Court has kind of overstepped its powers, as well as playing partisan politics, I believe that even though, yes, I'm not here to become a federal Supreme Court justice, I wanted to emphasize that to show that even though this is at a smaller scale, I still am very serious and very committed to the time and the necessities that are required of me for this role.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Michael Murphy. I'm a freshman, going in undecided. Don't know what I'm quite set on doing quite yet. I was initially drawn to the Supreme Court through the Ag and Rural Policy Club. They said if I wanted to do that, then student government might be a good option. So, I looked into it, and sure enough, the Supreme Court caught my eye. I used to do mock trial in high school, and I was a captain on that team for a couple years, so I've always kind of enjoyed the law aspect of government. I've acted as sort of an interim judge for a couple scrimmages in the past, and I don't know, the Supreme Court just really caught my eye because it's an interpretive body of you just sit down, you look at stuff, you interpret it, and you do the most possible, you could do the most benefit you can for the people around you, and especially the student body as a whole. When I was in emails talking about the government the outreach to the wider community of maybe doing mock trial, that caught my eye as well. So that's kind of me. Yeah.
All right, hello everyone. My name is Antonio Chavez. I am a senior in political science and sociology. And I was drawn to the Supreme Court because my good friend Charles Taylor needed positions filled, so I was like, you know what, sounds like a good idea. I actually had an internship with the law office over the summer, and I got to sit in on some real hearings. So I just want to bring that expertise to the role. I'm a very well-read person. A lot of my coursework reflects this, and yeah, I'm just excited to get started and start, if we are ever needed. So.
Hello, everyone. My name is Michael Briesmeister. I am a freshman here, majoring in genetics. Back in my big small town of Mount Vernon, I served on our high school student government for 4 years, and I really enjoyed my time there. So coming to Iowa State, I knew I wanted to help people in some way, and I also knew that I enjoyed being in student government to some form. However, I was also very much aware that genetics is a fairly heavy course load, so I looked at student government and I found that Supreme Court will probably be a good fit as the time commitment is relatively lesser, but I feel as though I can still make an impact and help students around campus. I look forward to working with y'all.
And so with that, the floor is open for any questions or comments for any of our nominees. Senator Trotter? Okay.
Just a very minor question for Chavez. You mentioned you're a senior. Do you graduate this semester or next?
Yeah, I graduate in the spring.
Okay, just checking.
Yeah.
I yield.
Moving on to Senator Everhart.
All right, I have a fun one for you guys. If you were to be any food, what would you be?
Does anyone know what the national dish for the United States is? Do we have one? Thanksgiving turkey.
I don't know. I don't have a favorite food, but I'd probably do a Philly cheesesteak because the Jersey Mike's Philly cheesesteak is a solid meal. I'm seeing some hands. I'm seeing some hands.
Yeah, so I would probably go with tacos. That's my favorite food. Like real tacos though, so the ones with like the little tortillas and onion, cilantro. No, I'm not talking like the hard shell stuff. So that's what I would go with.
It's not my favorite food, but for reasons that are funnier when left to the imagination, I would be a really good garlic breadstick.
All right, the questions are getting more difficult every week. Moving on to Vice Speaker Kamstra.
All right, that was a fun question. A little bit more of a serious question. One of my big goals as Vice Speaker is to facilitate community among this organization, not just the legislative branch. What does community look like, or what would a community of student government look like to you?
I think a community of student government would just, hold on. A community of student government would probably be one where the branches are a little more interwoven. So like, I know in emails we've talked about like having like a Supreme Court justice sit in during Senate meetings. And like we talked in the Rules Committee about having like a Supreme Court justice serve like an advisory or maybe a voting role, I wasn't really sure, on committees. And I think doing that and then furthering that in like almost all the committees, I understand there's some that Supreme Court justice probably shouldn't touch, but just having more, at least an advisory position, so the Supreme Court isn't just wholly reactionary, it's also steps in before it needs to get the whole court involved.
Yeah, sort of just to add on to that, being more involved in just the meetings or, meeting with other branches outside of student government would be great. Creating friendships, not just kind of showing up when I'm needed. Also something that I guess I hesitated to bring this up, but I plan to, I had a student actually today in one of my law classes that I have, who is interested in creating a law and politics club, and he's sort of having a hard time kind of getting members and kind of getting it out there. So as long as it's within my power of the judiciary, I would like to kind of like help that student or sponsor him in a way to help him kind of get that club going as well. So I don't know if I'm able to do that within student government, but any other way I can do that. I would do that for other students as well, but that is a way of me kind of becoming more involved, not just following that reactionary position that we have already.
All right. Yeah, so I mean, when we sat in on that Rules Committee meeting, it was just like kind of like a surprise to me how like how like happy everybody was. You guys were joking around and everything. So I really liked that aspect. I never really thought of student government like that. I thought it more of like a very serious role. My freshman year, I was on the Civic Engagement Committee. I don't know if that's a thing anymore, but yeah, I went to a meeting like this, spoke in front of all the senators, and it was in the sunroom, and it just felt a lot more serious then. So I don't know, I'm just trying to like spread a little bit more joy to the community, the whole student government, not just us, and hopefully build a community within us as well.
Take something as simple as a little wave on the way through campus, kind of being friendly with each other. And obviously, from what I've seen insofar, you guys stay pretty civil with each other in here, which is really good and can be, I know, very difficult when opinions are pitted against each other. I'd also really appreciate, I feel, build community if there were activities for some student government people that we undertook together outside of just meetings that would be, I feel like that could turn out to be a pretty good time with y'all.
All right, and so with that, it's been called for and seconded. Is there any objection to ending debate at this time? Seeing none, closing comments, Speaker Heckbarth? Seeing no closing comments, again, UC has been overwhelmingly called for. Is there any objection to passing all four of tonight's nominees by way of unanimous consent? Seeing no objection, the motion carries. If you could stay up there one moment. And so, if I'm not mistaken with that, our Supreme Court is now at capacity. Congratulations to our Chief Justice and everyone who helped make that happen. And so with that, we'll move on to item 2023-2-029SC, confirming the nomination of an Election Commission Treasurer with Speaker Heckbarth.
All right, you want to go ahead and approach the podium? So we saw Santi last week where we confirmed him to the Election Commission. And pretty much since the very beginning of my interactions with him and from what I've heard from Election Commissioner Clayton, Santi has been very interested in the role of treasurer and is overwhelmingly qualified for the position. And so I will let them go ahead and introduce themselves again.
Good evening, everybody. As Speaker Hackbarth said, I am Santi Fajardo, and I am getting nominated for Election Commission Treasury Secretary. I'm a political science major, and I'm a freshman right now. Just some of the things that I've done in the past as goes leadership experience. When I was Youth Congress, I was a committee chair, and before that I was a district officer. And then during my senior year, I served as the National Honor Society chapter of my school as vice president, and I served that entire year. And then some of my current involvement here on campus, right now I'm the House President of my floor. I'm also involved in first year council, and I'm also involved in Political Science Club. And that's pretty much it. I'm open for questions.
Starting with Vice Speaker Kamstra.
How much I appreciate all those that go into finance as a kinesiology major, including Mr. Hirsch over there. Why would you want to run for this position of finance director?
So it's something different.
Or finance.
Yeah.
Yeah, not finance director. Sorry, I got that mixed up. Election Commission finance per chair. Treasurer. Thank you. Sorry, I'm again kinesiology major.
It's something I've never done before. It's a brand new position. I've already done a lot of administrative roles. It's also a very similar type of administrative role as treasurer. Something I haven't done before. It's also where I believe I can make the most impact. An election commission is a position that's desperately needed to make sure that we can actually put the elections running smoothly. And I want to make sure that on election commission, I can do something a little extra than just being there at the meetings and voting on stuff. I want to have a very active role as treasurer, and I believe treasurer is one of the most active positions. And I think I got it, what it takes to do it.
Awesome. Thank you for that answer. I yield.
So with that, we're open for any other questions. Yes, but I would entertain before that a motion to remove Senator Reichert from the role. Been moved and seconded. Is there any objection to removing Senator Reichert? Seeing no objection, he shall be removed. All right, thank you. Sorry about that. But yes, call to question has been called for and seconded in some capacity there. Is there any objection to ending debate? Seeing no objection, closing comments, Speaker Heckbarth. Seeing no closing comments, UC has been called for. Is there any objection to passing this motion by way of unanimous consent? Seeing none, the motion carries. Congratulations. And so with that, we'll move into item 2023-2-030SC, confirming nominees to the Election Commission with Speaker Heckbarth.
How are we like only halfway through this? Okay, may our nominees approach the podium? I believe there should be Jacob. Is Jacob here? Oh, Oh my goodness, you snuck up on me. Okay. So these two both come highly recommended by Election Commissioner Clayton. So we will go in the order that you are listed on the bill. So go ahead and introduce yourself and why you want to be a part of EC.
Alrighty, good evening. My name is Layla Ahmetovic, if you want to say it easier. I'm a freshman majoring in political science. I'm super interested in like the way government works, just like the entire scheme of things. It's super entertaining, super awesome. Election Commission is super important to me personally. Like, I really love seeing people out there doing their civic duty, voting, getting people to vote, I feel is also a civic duty. It's super important to push people out there, especially like people that may not know everything about the voting process, how it works. I think it's just like really important to maintain. Yeah, I worked pretty closely with my high school's administration, especially my senior year, just working with getting like new policies, because we had like a really big administration change, so just like new policies, new administration, getting certain events out to students, making sure students knew like what they could do, what they could vote for, and just like stuff like that. Yeah, that's all I got.
Hello, my name is Jacob. I am currently a freshman. I am majoring in undecided right now, but I'm heavily leaning towards political science, more specifically in international relations and foreign stuff. I first heard of the Election Commission when I went to Club Fest, where I heard about the student government, and Election Commission seemed like the most interesting one to me. I think having voter turnout up is a very positive thing, and unfortunately in the real world voter turnout's not that high, so I believe raising voter turnout in like Iowa State would give people an opportunity to do more of their civic duty and give them a chance to actually vote in the real world, not just on Iowa State but in the real world as well.
And so with that, as Vice Speaker Campster said, the floor is open for any discussion or questions. If there are no questions, is there a call to question? Do you still want to? Okay, there's been a call to question, and I believe that was seconded. Is there any objection to ending debate now? Seeing none, closing comments, Speaker Hackbarth? Seeing no closing comments, UC has also been called for. Is there any objection to passing this motion by way of unanimous consent? Seeing none, the motion carries. Thank you. And we don't have to swear you in for this position. Yeah, we are correct on that fact. And so if that, we'll move into item 2023-2-032SG, seating senators to sustainability with Speaker Hackbarth.
Okie dokie. May our three senators go ahead and approach the podium. So I received a message last week from Director Miller after having interviewed all three candidates, and would you like to speak on behalf of the candidates? All right, I yield the rest of my time to Director Miller.
Hello, everyone. So I interviewed these candidates last week, and we had very interesting meetings, and I highly recommend all of them to be seated. Some of them have already started working on sustainability at Iowa State, even like without my direction, and so I am very excited for them to be on the committee. I don't have anything left to say, but they're great, I promise.
And so if you all would like to address Senate in any way, you're welcome, or we can go straight into questions. It's up to you.
I'll turn it in short mode. I have been interested in Sustainability Committee since the start. I've already spoken with Olivia, and we've talked about, looking at some like plasticware issues in the dining hall, but beyond that, I've been interested. I think people don't always know, especially some of the sustainable clubs, that the Sustainability Committee wants to hear their ideas. So I've been looking at ways that, we can reach out to those clubs as like a committee or let them know that the resource is there so that they can present their ideas to the Sustainability Committee, as well as collecting data on what people are interested in, and possible ideas as well. So.
So likewise, I've always been very interested in sustainability. I think it was just something that I definitely wanted to bring in. I work for the NREM department at Iowa State, and so just talking with all the professors, it's really gotten me into sustainability. And I've already been able to set up a meeting with the faculty for NREM so that I can gather some more ideas. I'm really excited about this. We're going to go and talk to them about student government and the sustainability part of it, and we're going to get some good ideas, hopefully. So I'm very excited about that.
Alrighty. So for those who don't know, my name is Eric Rolls, and I'm a sophomore majoring in industrial design. And I feel like I've said it about 500 times, but my friend Colton here, I initially wanted to join student government last year, second semester, but rules couldn't break a three-way tie, something like that. I don't know. But he had me make a list of everything I wanted to achieve or things I wanted to see happen in the student government, and about half to two-thirds of all my ideas I felt aligned with sustainability. So I think it's always something I've been passionate about, and I think I could make a good impact, just campus-wide or just whole city-wide even. But I think one of the big ideas that I shared with Sophie was the main one, was getting electric vehicle chargers. Because one little factoid I saw, I think past week, is the only fast electric car charger is in Ankeny. There isn't one in Ames at all. So that was kind of the main thing I thought about. It's like, what if we change that? I think there's a lot of other just small projects we can do to just make a small to large impact all across campus. And I think that benefits everyone as a whole. Thank you.
All right, and so with that, the floor is open for any discussion. Speaker Hackbarth.
Okay, so Director Miller mentioned that you had been already started working on projects. Caden, I think I have a pretty good guess of what yours is. If it's, don't be so cryptic. Would you be comfortable to elaborate what projects you're working on now and what projects you're planning on for the future?
So me and Olivia had a meeting last week, and we were talking about the plasticware in the dining hall. We have to double check and see if they said it's like bio-made or biodegradable, and we don't quite know. So I want to double check on that and see what we can do to possibly switch over related to that. Like I said, I wanted to bring clubs together, and I've already talked with some people in like Climate Reality and some other sustainable clubs and reach out to them to start building personal connections there, as well as I know someone who's very a sustainability writer. They just became one for the Iowa State Daily, so they were possibly looking at, like what issues could they report that the sustainability committee is interested in, so that students can actually know on campus what we're doing.
Did you want us all to answer that? Yes, please. Oh, okay. So I don't have any specific projects I'm working on right now, but what I mentioned earlier is that I have that meeting set up, so hopefully I can find some new projects to work on. I also want to help Olivia finish some of the projects that she's been talking to me about, trying to get finished from last year. I think if we were talking about finding a new way to make sure that projects get done for a semester and that we can actually get each project done. So that's what I mainly want to focus on.
I guess you guys already heard my big one, but as with Senator Persley, I wanted to kind of help Olivia, as we talked about during our meeting. Last year, sustainability had a lot of projects that we just couldn't get finished, and I think that's just something we need to, work on, because that's like there was like 3 projects done last year, 1 for the whole year, and I think that's just absurd. So I think we really need to, multiply that by a couple factors. It's kind of hard to multiply by 1, but don't worry about it. I think that's kind of the biggest difference. Just get a lot of projects done. If they're small or large, just doesn't really matter. Just get a lot of stuff done.
Call to question. It's been moved and seconded. Is there any objection to ending debate? Seeing no objection, closing comment, Speaker Hackbarth. Seeing no closing comments, UC has been called for. Is there any objection to seating these nominees by way of unanimous consent? Seeing no objection, they shall be sat. Moving on next to item 2023-2-034, I think that says under all the cursors, SC, confirming a nominee to IDEA Director with Speaker Hackbarth.
All right, if our nominee will approach the podium. Yes. What? I can't hear you, so I'm just going to go with what I was going to say, respectfully. So just a quick overview. IDEA Director is going to be the new name of the Director of DE&I, but IDEA stands for Inclusivity, Diversity, Equity, and Accessibility, while the DE&I Director position explicitly states in our bylaws that accessibility of students is a large concern. We wanted that to be a focal point of the Director position because not a lot of people know about it. So that bylaw bill that I mentioned that will be coming up is just going to be making that change happen. None of the roles are really changing of the Director position. It is purely the name to showcase that accessibility is also one of our concerns. So with that, I would love for you to introduce yourself and talk a little bit more about why you want the role.
Okay, my name is Abhiraj and I'm a freshman in supply chain management. I'm going to be running for the Director of IDEA. My journey to Iowa State from India has been nothing short of transformative, and as an international student, I've had the privilege of experiencing a cross-cultural exchange that has broadened my horizons and deepened my understanding of diversity as a whole. But it has also exposed me to the nuances of diversity and inclusion challenges that we face on this very campus. Living in the United States has been a learning experience, and it has allowed me to see firsthand the diversity and the complexities of inclusivity that we have here. I've also seen instances where individuals from diverse backgrounds face challenges in feeling fully integrated into our university community. I believe that Iowa State has the potential of being a shining example of inclusivity, where every student, regardless of their background, feels valued, heard, and supported. This is not just a dream, it's a vision that I plan on bringing into reality. In conclusion, I stand before you today not only as a candidate, but as also an advocate for diversity, equity, and inclusion. I'm committed to making Iowa State a place where every student feels valued, respected, and embraced. I think if we have everyone's support, we can do it. Yeah, I think that's about it. I'm open to questions if you guys have any.
Yeah, and so with that, the floor is open for any questions, starting with Senator Persley.
Okay, so firstly, I want to create events and initiatives that bring our diverse student body together. I envision a space where students can forge connections and help and get help and support from fellow peers. I was thinking of a support network, maybe like a support group that we can host bi-weekly, weekly, whichever works, but something like that will serve as a pillar of strength. That'll give the students a sense of belonging, to say the least. And then I was also thinking about hosting cultural exhibitions, which would, wherein members of our community can showcase their cultures. These exhibitions would not only celebrate our differences, but would also provide learning experiences for people to actually learn about them rather than just seeing cultures as a whole. Now, I have another thing that I want to add. I also believe education is somewhat important. So I propose that the student government organize conferences and workshops that delve into the intricacies of racism and exclusion. both overt and subtle, obviously. But we need to educate ourselves and our peers on these topics. My personal experiences have unfortunately included instances of racism on this very campus, and I believe no one should have to endure those discriminations based on their race, ethnicity, or inclination. And I want to ensure that no student faces such adversity at Iowa State. So I think that's something that I had planned out. But any other questions?
So moving on to Senator Everhart.
This one is just like if you feel comfortable answering, but what part of India are you from?
I'm from the Delhi border.
Okay.
So technically I'm in UP, which is a state in India,
Mhm.
but I'm bordering Delhi.
Awesome.
Yeah.
And then one other question, I just got a fun one for you.
Mm-hmm.
If you could be a food, or if you were a food, what would you be?
Ooh. I actually have no idea. I can eat anything and everything. I'd say red grapes. I don't know. Yeah.
Senator Swank.
So they recently added a B to DEI, and it stands for belonging. So what does the word belonging and the action of it, what does it mean to you?
So for me, belonging is a sense that I get whenever I'm with my friends, if I'm being very honest. College hasn't been going on for very long. I'm a freshman. I just started a month ago. So the sense of belonging isn't here yet. But for me, I'd say belonging is anything that makes you feel like you're home, even though you're away from home. And if we have that sense on campus, I think it would help students do better on their exams, do better in studies, have better mental health, just do better overall. So I think that's what the sense of belonging is for me.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Senator Persley.
Do you have any like accessibility ideas?
Ooh, yeah, I do. I was thinking of making an accessibility pathways map, which would essentially highlight every accessible pathway or gates or washrooms into one big map, which would help mostly disabled people to access them and then show them the routes which they can take to help themselves. Yep.
All right, and so with that, the floor is open for any other questions. It's been moved for and seconded. Is there any objection to ending debate at this time? Seeing no objections, closing comments, Speaker Hackbarth. UC has been called for. Is there any objection to seating this new director by way of unanimous consent? Seeing none, the motion carries. Awesome, thank you. And to my knowledge, we do not have to swear in cabinet members either. Yep. All right, and so with that, we'll move into item 2023-2-035SG, confirming an at-large to Finance Committee with Speaker Hackbarth.
If the nominee would like to approach the podium, so I would like to yield my time to Finance Director Hirsch.
Hi again, everyone. Had a really good conversation with Will. Very confident in his ability to be a finance at large this year. I know he's got a lot of great things to say, so I'm excited to hear him talk tonight.
Like you said, my name's Will. I'm a first-year sophomore, technically, majoring in supply chain and finance. And basically, I went to the Club Fest thing, and I was like, I should get involved somehow and meet new people. And I did student government in high school, so I went up and talked to them, and then they got me in touch with Martin, and we had a meeting, and I was like, this sounds like something that interests me. So then he said if I wanted like his nomination, he would, and I'm here.
So with that, the floor is open for any questions or discussion, starting with Speaker Hackbarth.
Okay, so this is kind of a two-parter question. Seeing as you said a freshman, correct?
Classified as a
First
sophomore,
year.
but yes.
Okay, perfect. What do you hope to bring to the role, and what do you hope to take away from the role as an at-large?
Well, in terms of like bringing something to the like table, I'm like good with numbers, and when we were talking, he said like every student pays their like student activity fee or whatever it's called, and like I don't know, I'd kind of like to have an input in how we spend my money and everyone else's money. And then what was the second part of that?
What do you hope to take experience-wise, and what do you hope to learn from the role?
I'd say learn more about money, and like I think being involved in an organization like this would just be beneficial for like aspects, even like something as simple as how meetings run. Like I've never been in an official meeting like this, just stuff like that.
All right, and so seeing no food-related questions, are there any other questions? Going to take that as a second. It's been moved and seconded. Is there any objection to ending debate? Seeing no objection, closing comments, Speaker Heckbarth. Seeing no closing comments, UC has been called for. Is there any objection to seating this at-large by way of unanimous consent? Seeing none, the motion carries. Moving into item 2023-2-036SG, confirming a nominee to the SciRide Board of Trustees with Vice Speaker Kamstra.
So yeah, I was asked to write this bill on behalf of President Holliday and Margaret, but Jeffrey Clark to the, seating Jeffrey Clark to the SciRide Board of Trustees. Is he here? No? Okay. Jennifer, I yield to you.
Thank you. Okay, so I recently had a meeting with the director of SciRide. Her name is Barb. She is an amazing woman. It was 2 hours of nonstop conversation. She even wanted to give me a tour of all of their facilities, which would have been amazing, but after 2 hours, I did have another meeting to go to. So hopefully I can take her up on that another time. But on the topic of which Vice Speaker Kamstra just brought up, Quinn and myself would like to seat Jeff to the open SciRide Board of Trustees seat. Barb did request that Quinn or myself sit in this position. However, Quinn and I both looked at the schedule for the meetings for the remaining of the term, and it did not fit well for either of ours, as we both had a conflict consistently that was inevitable for the remainder of the term with these meetings. And so we decided to think about who we felt would best represent not only Quinn and I's thoughts, but the thoughts of student government, the students as a whole, and since the SciRide Board of Trustees includes city members as well, who would represent city members well also. So Quinn and I came to the conclusion that Jeff would be amazing to represent ourselves. After having a conversation with him, he is pretty dedicated and passionate to everything related to conjoining the students with the city of Ames, including SciRide. And so we think that Jeff would be amazing to fulfill this seat if you so would confirm him in tonight. Thank you.
And so with that, the floor is open for any discussion, or I suppose questions for President Holliday as she channels ex officio clerk. If there are no questions, without objection, we'll move to end debate. Seeing no objection, closing comments, Speaker Heckbarth. Vice Speaker Kamstra, excuse me. No, it says Speaker Heckbarth on the actual bill. It does. So if you wish that to be changed, we'd do that as a friendly. Yeah, or you can just, yeah. Seeing no comments from either person on this bill, we'll move into a vote at this time. Called for. My mic's there. Is there any objection to seating this nominee by way of unanimous consent? Seeing none, the motion carries. Still got to clap for him, even though he's not here. And so with that, we'll move into the final business item of this category, item 2023-2-037SC, confirming graduate student nominees to the Special Student Fee Committee with Senator Mahoney.
So the Special Student Fee Committee, we've talked about it before. There's 2 seats on it for graduate students.
There's some weirdness happening this year with some confusion. So long story short, the nominees for the graduate student seats we're going to confirm in Senate. So the two nominees are the president of GPSS and president of the graduate student body, Christine Campbell, and the treasurer of GPSS, Keen Fallon, neither of which unfortunately could be here tonight, but I have statements from them. I'll read the first one from Christine first. The Graduate and Professional Student Senate nominates GPSS President Christine Kane for placement on the Special Student Fee Committee. GPSS is the recognized independent government body of graduate students at ISU and is charged with representing graduate and professional students' perspectives on policy, university decisions, and matters affecting graduate students on campus. Graduate students pay student fees that go to support student government, alongside many of the services addressed within the Special Student Fee Committee. The placement of the GPSS president on the Special Student Fee Committee has been a precedent for many years to ensure that there is a graduate representative with connections to the graduate body and personal experience on the Special Student Fee Committee. As the GPSS president and with a PhD in higher education, Christine has access to many graduate student perspectives, is explicitly tasked with representing graduate students at Iowa State, and provides her own academic expertise and familiarity with higher education funding systems and student services through her work and research in higher education. And then for Keen Fallon, sorry, hang on. The GPSS Treasurer's placement on the Special Student Fee Committee has been a standard for a number of years and is explicitly written in GPSS's bylaws. This establishes a graduate representative with expertise in the finances of GPSS and their distribution on the Special Student Fee Committee. As a PhD in mathematics, Keen has served as a member of the GPSS Finance Committee since he became a senator last year, and a committee he currently chairs as treasurer. Keen has knowledge of and direct experience with student fee dispersal within GPSS, as he approves all GPSS funding and formulates the GPSS budget, and is charged with representing the economic concerns of graduate students. Keen has also had a significant experience in managing the widely varying budgets of organizations, both inside and outside of academia. All right, and so with that, starting with Senator Cecil.
Given that we have two recognized student governments, one of those being GPSS, there's really no reason to say no to this because they are both extremely qualified and we don't really need to see this as they have already passed the requirements by this code.
Sure, just as kind of a point of information, we do have to confirm this technically under state law. But yes, there's been a call for question. It's been moved to end debate and seconded. Is there any objection to ending debate at this time? Seeing none, I'm assuming that was your comment, Senator Cecil. Closing comments, Senator Mahoney? Seeing no closing comments, UC has been called for. Is there any objection to passing this motion by way of unanimous consent? Seeing none, the motion carries. All right, and so with that, we'll move, seeing no general orders, into special orders, starting with new business. For our new senators, new business items are bills that we will read today and vote on next week. And so rather than free questions, we can ask specifically yes or no questions of intent. So starting with item 2023-2-033Y, updating the bylaws to current idea objectives with Senator Mahoney. This was alluded to earlier in the meeting, but we are updating the acronym, or updating the positional title of Director of DE&I to Idea Director to more accurately represent what the director's objectives and goals are. Also, our bylaws are a little bit of a mess in that regard and sometimes refers to it as Director of Student Diversity, which we haven't called it in several years, and other places makes mention to Director of DE&I. So mostly is just updating the language of anything related to DE&I to be idea. There is three little things that are kind of caught up in that, three small positional things that were created several years ago to help facilitate inter-committee communication. They haven't really been used as positions in the last couple of years, and it was either just outright remove them because that's just not how committees really collaborate nowadays since we have all of our chairs at cabinet anyways, or update the language on a pointless committee position that won't probably be filled. So we opted to strike them out as part of just the updates so that it more accurately reflects how we actually operate as a government. It is a pretty straightforward bylaw bill aside from its length, just because there's lots of mentions of DE&I in the bylaws. And so with that, the floor is open for any questions of intent, those being yes or no questions. Seeing no questions, we'll move on to closing announcements for this evening. Is there anyone who would like to address the body in any way tonight? Starting with Senator Cecil.
With the name change for D&I, this is a bylaw bill, so if you all could look at it a little bit, we will have much bigger and a little bit more complex bills for the bylaws coming through at some point. And rules, we discussed that it's probably a good idea for you all to get familiar with something like this, which is not as huge as some of the changes we intend to bring before the body.
Senator Persley.
Okay, so I have been made aware that there's an ISU homecoming kickoff event where you can have a table for your group, and I think that we should have a table there. I don't know if that goes to PR people just to make them aware of it. It would be really good for exposure and engagement, but yeah.
All right, and so with that, moving on to Senator Trotter.
Alderman, I'm slightly confused on what specifically we're allowed to talk about right now, but I believe I was not the only one to get an email from the Daily Mail requesting a comment on the ex-president, slightly implying some form of misdoing by the ex-president. What do we do about that? I presume we say no comment, or do we just say some random nonsense? Or what do we do?
Yeah, so that's a great question. And so I'm sure all of you received that email and might have been wondering about it. In that, we did share the official stance of the executive branch. And so as a general rule, we don't want to share any personal information or anything related to personal rumors, no matter who it is and what position. And so obviously, as a member of this organization, you're completely free to reply whatever you want. In the same spirit, you're completely free to deny any requests or to use our official stance if you want, but you have autonomy as far as what you respond with. So we just wanted to provide you with an update and recognize that many of you might be getting those emails, even though many of you did not know the former presidents, as we're past that matter. But again, feel free to respond with whatever you want, and you can reference our stance as an executive branch if you so choose.
And is there any...
Does that answer your question?
Yes, and is there any reason for us to, just since I'm hoping to get on a PR committee, I would like to reach out to this reporter for future references. Would there be any reason not to do that?
Not to do, can you repeat what you were hoping to do?
Just, I hope to form a personal connection with this reporter since they seem to be interested in governmental affairs, and I hope to be on PR committee eventually. So it seems like a good personal connection to form it, but is there any decorum rules against fraternizing with reporters?
Yeah, and so we have a great relationship with the Iowa State Daily. We have some members who are in student government and the Daily alike, and so there's certainly nothing that would prevent you from having that sort of relationship. And obviously, we don't want to seem like we're tying anyone's hands as far as how you interact with the Iowa State Daily or any other media sources. And so that is completely your jurisdiction.
Thank you. I yield.
Awesome, thank you. And so I think moving on to Senator Larson.
Okay, there we go. Okay, so if you all like free food and wait, you can keep yours up because this is about something different. No, this is something different. If you guys like free food and like Pong, Ag Policy Club tomorrow at 6 is going to be grilling and have a whole bunch of free food behind Curtis in front of East Hall. So feel free to come. That's going to be at 6, and anybody can show up. So, and then we also are going to have prizes as well.
Right, and so moving down to Senator Everhart.
All right, so as one of the Cal senators, I would just like to make everybody aware that next week is Cal's week. We will have plenty of free food on campus, so definitely stop by. There's going to be a bunch of different things going on throughout the week. Additionally, if you guys are looking to come out and have a good time next Monday night, Sigma Alpha will be hosting Mr. Cal's, which is essentially a male beauty pageant. We actually have our vice speaker, Brandon Kamstra, as the student government representative. So yeah, come out and support and see Brandon compete. So
All right, so moving on to our advisor, Sophie. I apologize if I missed your placard earlier. My apologies.
It's okay. This is my request that if you have been newly appointed to the organization, if you could see me after the meeting so I can get you added to all the student government systems. That'd be cool. So thank you.
All right, and so with that, are there any further closing announcements? Are we going back to Senator Larson? Okay. No worries.
Just something about Cal's Week. Since we are in student government, Mike Nag is actually coming to speak for Cal's Week. I think it's going to be Central Campus. This is going to be on Thursday at 12, so right around lunch. So I'm assuming he's going to allow to take questions. So if you guys have any questions about, Iowa politics, agricultural politics in Iowa, this is going to be an amazing opportunity to kind of ask those questions. And like I said, that's going to be on Thursday next week at 12.
All right, well, thank you to everyone. Are there any further closing announcements before I share mine? Seeing none, I do thank Senator Trotter for bringing that up. That was something that I was going to mention, that we sent out that email. We're sorry for all of our new members who are getting that about something that you're not familiar with. Emily Roberts was a former president who resigned for personal reasons, and so we really respect the Daily for their due diligence here, but we're sorry that it doesn't necessarily have any meaning to our new members. And so I kind of already addressed our question about that earlier. But moving on to something a little bit more upbeat and fun, we have a full court now, which I think is very exciting. I know we had a lot of people work on that the first few weeks of the semester so that we can have a functioning judicial branch, and so I'm happy that that's happened. As far as recruitment goes for the executive branch, we have 2 director seats left, I believe academic affairs and affordability. So if you know anyone who wants to get involved in student government, maybe is passionate about 1 or 2 of those things, or just wants to find a good way to make a difference, that's a tremendous role as well. And we have a number of Senate seats that we're trying to fill up so this room can keep getting more lively with debate as we progress through the year. And so beyond recruitment, I don't have any other updates to share at this time. Vice Speaker Kamstra.
All right, I got quite a few. So I hope all of you are reading the emails that I and the cabinet are sending out. They're all extremely important, including the entire agenda email. But one of them was regards to the office hours that you all have to complete to encourage more accountability with those. We're going back to a little bit of the old system, but with a more modern take on it. You have to fill out the office hours when you're in the student government office. In the past, it was an actual physical piece of paper that you had to sign. Now it's a QR code that leads to a forms where it also asks you a little bit about what you did during your office hours, just to make sure that we are working on stuff during there besides homework, even though homework is important. So yeah, make sure to fill that out. For this, starting this week, it'll be the QR code. In also regard to office hours, I'm going to be sending out non-feasances for office hours not completed or not filled out, and for attendance or lack of to Senate and committee meetings by the end of this week. So look for those. I'll take, my next one is about the working meeting quotations that we had before. First of all, I'd like to apologize to everybody that did come. I hope that I didn't waste your time. I hope you actually did get something out of it. I will take the fall for this one. I forgot to mention it last week at Senate. We were a little behind on the planning of it. However, it was meant to be more informal, just for you all to get to know one another besides your last names. So I'm hoping to do an actual working meeting in October where we can learn about how to write bills, how to reach out to people on campus to get actual work done and facilitate growth in this university. So yeah, again, my apologies. I'll take the fall for this meeting tonight and the lack of planning from me. Last few, I hope that everyone ends up on a committee by October. Otherwise, I'll probably be reaching out to you to have a conversation about some of your goals and stuff like that. So I believe there's only a few people left, but make sure you're reaching out to committee chairs and directors to join their committees. Otherwise, go to the document that Anna made. That's very helpful. And if you want to learn how to write a bill, let me know. So that's not just me and Anna and Eddie writing bills. So yeah, and then last other one that's not student government related. Recently it was National Voter Registration Day, so I hope you all are registered to vote. We had a lot of people talk about it. So, but you can go to vote.org to register to vote for upcoming local elections and the national election. So that's all I got.
Okay, firstly, I think I need to come clean. Everybody keeps on being like, that committee application document that Anna made. I did not make that.
Oh, I thought you
I did not make that. That was Vice President Margret. So he did such a good job that you thought it was me. So I'm really flattered with that. But credit where credit is due. So a couple things that I wanted to share is the attendance policy. The official formal attendance policy went out last week. If you need to miss something from here on out, please read through that attendance policy. It tells you who to contact, and you need to include a reason why. It gives you reasons why certain, or what is excused and what is not excused. For example, if you have an exam, that is obviously excused. Please go take your exam. But if you maybe fell behind on homework and you might have too much homework going on, that is not excused. That is a time management principle. So just review that document, reach out to the correct people so that we can get that noted. There is a new Senate email for the Speaker of the Senate that goes to both Brandon and I once he gets access to it. So it currently goes to just me, but that is going to be where all official communication from our office as Speaker of the Senate will be coming from. That will have the agenda, that will have information about working meetings. If you have questions and you need them answered, you can send them to that email, or you can continue to reach out to us privately. That is fine. Moving forward, next week we are moving completely to Teams. We are destroying the drive. It is gone, it is deceased, it is no longer existing from henceforth. Purely because the rest of our communication platform is on Teams. A lot of committees have channels on Teams. It is just in the best case that we, do the hard cutoff and we get rid of the drive. Lastly, if you need to speak with me, if you have any concerns, I do have a Calendly. I also have scheduled office hours. Those are on the whiteboard in the office. So when you go in to serve your office hours, you can see my Calendly link for times when I'm available, and you can also see when I am scheduled to be in the office. If you need me, that is the best way to set up a meeting with me. Don't send me an email. It will get lost. Just put it on the calendar yourself. And if there's a time on my calendar that is, would be ideal for you to meet, then you can send me an email. But check there first. With that, motion to adjourn. Roll clones.
We are adjourned.